Hey guys, this is Dennis, the founder of Think Hero.
And this is Ralph from IGN Entertainment.
And this is our review of the Game of Thrones Season 3 finale.
I know, are you sad? 10 more months, you guys.
Yeah, that's a long time to wait.
There's a lot that happened this week, even though most of it was kind of chatty.
The title of the episode is Mhysa.
Right, Mother.
Which we, the ending, let's talk about the ending first. We see the whole Dany thing, the whole religious figure of what Dany is turning into.
You know, she's a liberator right now, and I love Dany's title because it's just always ever longer. You know what I mean? It's Daenerys Stormborn, Mother of Dragons, Liberator of Slaves. And it just keeps getting longer and longer, more and more wonderful. And we wish we could all earn that many sort of titles to trail against our names. Mm-hmm. But it is an interesting thing, right? Because particularly. We knew that if you've read the books, you knew that moment was going to happen because of the title of the episode. Yeah. But when you see it visually like that, and her in the blue against all the brown clothing and things like that, it does feel like this religious figure.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about her becoming an object of worship?
Well, I haven't read the book, so I didn't know it was coming. But when it happened, I felt like, I think this is great as long as in the future episodes, they show the downside and the problems with such a revered and religious figure. If they start showing wow, she can't please everyone and all these things that happen to her. But if it becomes oh no, she is that, that high, perfect being, then no, I'm not interested in that. But I don't think that's going to happen. This is Game of Thrones.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. This is Game of Thrones, and really nobody is perfect. And I think that's one of the strengths, certainly, of the books and the characters in the books and the show as well, is that very few people are pure villains. Very few people are purely good.
Yes.
There is nuance in everyone, I would say. Of course, Joffrey. We have a couple new villains now as well. But really, Joffrey to date has been the one that has been purely evil and awful. Now we've got, swinging back to the beginning of the episode, certainly we have a couple new contenders in Roose Bolton and Mr. Asshole Frey.
Yeah, I mean, the aftermath of the Red Wedding, was in the beginning, and the only thing I could think, especially when Arya had to see Rob's body being paraded around with,
they call it Robwind or Grey Robwind, what they did, how they defiled his body. And that was a mirror to what happened. Remember, Joffrey made Sansa look at Ned's head on a spike. It's so defiling. It's
No, it's the lowest of the low. I mean, you can't do anything lower.
Mm-hmm. And it was great when Bran sort of called back to what they had done and said, the gods didn't punish him because the cook, the rat cook. The gods didn't punish him because he committed murder. They punished him because he killed a guest under his roof. And that is unforgivable. Not knowing what had happened, I thought that was a great callback to what they had done.
Yeah, and man, I feel so bad for Arya, but she's such a badass character. She's one of my favorites.
We turned to each other, Dennis and I turned to each other during the Arya scene when she was having, first of all, let's just talk about that opening sequence, the brutality, the pure brutality of the way that they were slaying, cutting off people's legs, hanging them from trees. It was so animalistic. And then when you see Arya, having to witness this, we just turned to each other and we're like, man, this girl's life is just awful.
I mean, she saw her father get his head cut off, a father who she loves so much, and then now this, no, she's gonna be turned into a cold-blood assassin. She's gonna kill mofos just like she did in this episode.
I mean, Arya's talked about wanting to do those things before, but here she is, and this is the first time she really did it, and it's because it's the person that did that, decimated her brother's body. I mean, there's something very poetic about that, very, of course, brutal and dark. I love the Hound's response. I love that he had to go through the fire, which he was afraid of, to get her out. And I love the Hound's response because, she's had these different parental figures and sort of guides along the way. And it's just well, if you're going to do that, tell me about it.
Yeah, he doesn't really care. He's I can kill these guys anyways, but just let me know.
Yeah. So it's well, just tell me, if you're going to be out all night. it wasn't funny, but there was something oddly
Well, they have
it.
a cool dynamic. She wants to kill him, but at the same time, he kind of wants to protect her. Because remember, at this point, he has no financial motivation anymore to take care of her. Or before, he was under the guise of, oh, I'm gonna get money for you or whatever. Now that's gone, but yet he still protects her.
Yeah, and again, it's Game of Thrones, I think, has this wonderful way of creating these fascinating relationships between people that should be and are enemies, and yet are thrown together and come to an understanding with one another. So, wasn't in the books, but certainly it was in the show. Arya and Tywin, she was never going to like him, but it was an interesting dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah.
Arya and the Hound has a little more potential to get past the enmity, though I don't know. I mean, she's not the forgiving sort, as we've seen, you know. And then, of course, we have Jaime and Brienne, sort of beginning with this enmity and coming, and they really, really have come to an intimacy, an emotional intimacy with one another.
Yeah, and further on with Roose Bolton and Walter Frey, we see that scene, and it's kind of revealed. I mean, I got this spoiled before in the comments. I think someone told me or something like that his bastard son, Ramsay Snow, is the one that's torturing Theon, and the whole reasoning of how, if you remember, Robb allowed Bolton to send his bastard son to take Winterfell back.
Right, and it's funny because it's one of the things that we've been saying this season is basically, if you want to know who's torturing Theon, just think back to season 2 and you'll remember who was sent to handle it, and that's who it is, they said who it is. But here we are, we have the reveal. He's bananas. He is so cray-cray.
Well, you have that whole scene with the sausage and oh man, as a guy, you're just looking at it going, oh no, it's so you're cringing at it. And how about them sending the actual favorite toy to Balon Greyjoy?
What I will say that yielded, I mean, I was not obviously a fan of Balon's anyway.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because Tywin, who also is very ruthless, as we know, gives this whole speech, this gorgeous speech in a way, about how important he does have a code of ethics, and it's about his family. But by that he means the name, not I love you, son. Clearly,
No.
But it's about the name and upholding the name and bettering the name of Lannister, and putting them in a better position, politically speaking. And yet, Greyjoy has do you think for a second that Tywin Lannister would let that continue to happen to one of his sons? No, because it makes him look weak.
Yes.
That's why. What I loved about that is that Yara, who had static, with her brother, was like, no, I've made my decision and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get my baby brother and this is how.
Yeah, you can see the love that she still has for her little brother, even though they haven't really seen, or they didn't see each other for many, many years. And she's this high commander and he's just kind of this, almost like a spoiled guy. I mean, he kind of got spoiled by being with the Starks.
Oh, sure. I mean, I was no fan of his and he made a lot of mistakes, but I think especially when you see this torture play out, you think, okay, enough, yield.
You get some sympathy for him.
Yeah, because it's hard to say that because he did, other than all the terrible other things he did cold-bloodedly kill 2 children.
That is true.
And so it's hard to say enough, but at some point, just kill the man.
Yeah. Just
kill him. Put him out of his misery. I mean, this is so cruel what's happening to him, but it does sort of make you question things about how far is too far in terms of punishing people. But one of the bigger themes of this episode was family, and she certainly is the sister I would want to have.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene with her. I made my decision. I'm going to take the ship and take all these people, and I'm going to go get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then speaking of Bran and that story, they run into Samwell.
Yes, very, very conveniently. Yes, and I think that what was really key and important about that, besides Bran being able to get to the north, and again, another big theme in this episode is that we understand that the real threat is coming from the army of the undead and the White Walkers. I mean, that's the real threat. It's really not, as Melisandre even said, it's not about this war of five kings. It's about this other, much larger, much more dangerous war. And so we get that. And he kept the dragon glass. Thank God. I thought he dropped it.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe he just had more than we thought.
Yeah, I think he
just used one up or something like that.
Yeah, I think he had more than we thought. And so and I do remember, I guess, him collecting more than that, but thank God, and now they understand what it is, and they're sort of armed with it. We still on the show, we don't know why Bran has to go there, but we know that he understands that he does, and that he's some kind of key in all of this. I mean, that's the other thing is like we keep being told who's a key figure in all of this, and they are key figures in different ways.
Yeah, he's kind of like a special figure, like Harry Potter or something like that.
Well, I mean, he's got these very unique and powerful abilities.
Yeah.
Now armed with the only thing that we know of that can kill the army of the undead. How that plays out, we will see.
Yeah, and he's got Hodor on his side.
He's got Hodor. Hodor.
And speaking of Samwell, then he finally gets to Castle Black. With Gilly, and kind of tells the story to Maester Aemon, who wisely believes him and starts writing all these messages to everybody.
Yeah.
With the ravens.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting turn of events in terms of how will this affect everyone? Will people start to communicate with one another? Who's going to believe it? Who's not? Who's going to see the threat? Who's not? Stannis has Melisandre saying, "Yeah, that's real." And he's pretty much going to listen to anything she says.
Yeah, because he's one moment he wants to kill Davos, and another moment he's letting him live, and all because of what she's saying.
And she's entirely running the show for him. I mean, whatever she says at this point seems to be going. You know, she's already brought up previously that she felt that the real threat was from the north. She's already said that previously, and that Stannis is the key to solving the problem. He is the key to saving. And it's the funny thing, too, it's the second time in the episode that you get the idea of tens of thousands of lives versus one, right? Before it was with Tyrion, like, oh, well, what's 12? I mean, Tyrion and Tywin was 12 people at a dinner table versus 10,000. Yeah. And her thing, too, what's this one boy versus 10,000 lives?
What did you think of Davos saving Gendry?
I mean, and that is the question, right? Because I think the key question, and this is the question of so many interesting series, is the one versus the many. And he said, what's one bastard boy versus the kingdom? And he says everything. It's everything. And so that's basically, to me, it's just your point of view.
Yeah.
You know, is one life more important than many? Is one act of evil worth saving 10,000, a million lives? I don't certainly have an answer.
Well, yeah, I don't think there is an answer, but I think it's an age-old question that comes up all the time, and just it's in this show they do it very well.
I think Davos's point of view is I mean, it is. And I think another thing that's interesting is that I love the line that Gendry says, we're not even people to you, meaning the lowborn. We're not even people to you. We're just 1 million ways to get what you want. You know, and it's that idea of the lowborn versus the highborn and who has value. And one thing that Daenerys believes is that everyone has value.
Also at Castle Black, we get to see Jon Snow. He's all injured and hurt because his ex-lover Ygritte shot him with some arrows.
That's one way to break up.
Yeah.
Have no fury.
Yeah, I had incorrectly assumed last week that Bran had gotten into his mind and that's why he ran away, but I guess he did it on his own, which I don't know. I just felt that was kind of out of character for him.
Both of them are so totally who they are, right? So I love that he's like, I know one thing, I love you and you love me, but at the end of the day, he's got to be him. You know, like he's got to be the man that he is, and he's got to stick to what he believes in, and that means going back. And she's got to be the woman that she is and stick to what she knows, and that means shooting him with arrows.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder if part of her love kept the arrow from going into any vital organs.
Yeah, I feel like it was just more of like a punch in the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
So like for a while, that was like a wildling punch in the shoulder. Like, man, you hurt me. But
exactly.
She's not really going to kill him.
Yeah, like she just wants to physically hurt him back. Just to let him know.
I feel like if she really, really wanted to kill him, she could have.
Yeah. So King's Landing, which we didn't get to see in last episode. I love all. I mean, some people say it's boring, the King's Landing stuff. I love it.
Me too.
I love all the politics and all the subtext of what people say to each other, and that whole council meeting with Tywin, Tyrion, Cersei,
Crazy
Varys.
Joffrey.
I mean, man, Joffrey.
I'm gonna serve her brother's head, and he would.
He would.
Everyone is mine to torment.
Yeah.
He's just so hateful. I hate
Yeah.
him so much.
He's one of those, the 100% evil.
100%
Yeah.
evil. Just, oh, God. Why are you the way you are, Joffrey? You know?
But I love, again, the scene, because they kind of did this before, but this was another example of Tywin kind of like saying, no, hey, little boy, you may be the king, but I'm really the king.
Yeah, I think and I love his look to him, like,
Yeah.
really?
Like, test me.
Test me, do it.
Yeah.
I beg you. It was, and I think that's the thing is like what you learn is that power isn't always what it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, Tywin understands real power, and he's been wielding it for a long, long time. It is fascinating to me, King's Landing, because of the political sort of nature of it, which is one of the things that I like about the show. If you look at a character like Varys, think of how much our perception of Varys has changed over the last 3 years. In that scene with Shay, all of a sudden, and we've seen this a little bit this season, and that's what I'm saying about nobody being purely evil. Melisandre, there are moments then you think, this woman's really got the greater good in mind.
Well, yeah, if she's saying, oh, we need to stop this oncoming threat, then you're like, oh, well, that's actually a good thing.
Right. And the same thing with Varys, because he's like, he says about Tyrion, this is one of the few people that really can do good for the realm, and he lists the reasons why, and one of those reasons, circling back to another theme, is he's got the name for it.
Yes.
He's
got the mind in the name.
And you see these people behind the people pulling the strings, and you think maybe Varys, it's like circling back to that chaos, the two sides of chaos speech with he and Littlefinger. Maybe he really does have the good of the realm in mind. I think it's fascinating the way they've been able to construct these characters, that your perception of them shifts and changes so much.
He did, talk to Shay and like try and convince her to leave, but she kind of threw down the
gauntlet.
And said, I'm gonna stay here, which, you know what, I'm thinking it's just more the actress than the character that I just don't like. Because I think if that was a different actress that played that same scene, I think I would have liked it a lot better.
I kind of had mixed feelings about that scene, because I thought, listen, take the money and run. I mean, you've already rejected the offer Tyrion made to you to set you up. You don't like being his wife's handmaiden, and there's no future for you here. And he's told you that your presence here puts Tyrion in danger. So why? I mean, at that point, take the diamonds and go. You're doing good for yourself and for him.
Yeah, if she truly loves him, then she might consider like at least trying to keep him out of danger.
I mean, at that point, it becomes not a noble act, but kind of a very selfishly stubborn act. Yeah. And you're just kind of like, I don't get you. I really don't understand your choices. I don't think I dislike her quite the way a lot of people do.
Like me.
Really dislike her. But at that point, I'm like, I don't understand what planet you think you're on. But I think it's this. I think that one of the things that the show is trying to bring home is this idea of some sense of egalitarianism. Like, why should I be unequal? That kind of question keeps coming up. Like, why should one person be more or less equal than the other? And even with Sam, I am the guardian of all the men in the realms. That means her too, right? So I get that. Also, in that specific situation, you're dumb. Go, take those diamonds. That scene I love the scenes. Some of my favorite scenes are Tyrion and Cersei. They have such great chemistry. They're good friends in real life, and maybe that's a part of it.
And the acting it's so high.
I know. It's like what everybody wants to be able to achieve what the two of them have together. But what I think is great is that in that moment, again, like whenever Cersei sort of talks about her children, is when you really see she dropped truth
Yes.
tonight. It was like, no, I'm not happy, but I would have been dead if it wasn't for my children. Yes, even Joffrey, acknowledging that he's a monster, but saying, when he was a baby, he was lovely. It's a lie that I should have known.
And even Joffrey today can't take that feeling she had away. And that's, I don't know, like that feeling she had may have like helped shape who
Joffrey
is. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm sure. I mean, if you've seen any of her motherly advice, it's pretty awful. She is who she is, and she's a Lannister, and she is who she is. That the other person that she had, that's her person, has just come back to her, Jaime.
Yeah.
I liked, it was interesting, they, again, like linearly, that things move around, but that moment of her seeing him, and is she going to accept him or reject him now that he's sort of been beaten down, lost a hand? What do you think?
Don't know, but, it's weird because they are brothers and we know their relationship, so it's weird because you're like, oh, they're back together, and then you're like, oh, wait.
Oh, they're back together.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I don't know. I did like to see that they finally got Jaime back to King's Landing.
I mean...
And what happens to Brienne now?
But that's what I'm saying, too, is like your perception of that even shifts over time because not that I condone incest by any stretch of the imagination, but she's so lonely.
Yeah.
Like she's just so totally lonely. Like Robert never loved her.
Yeah.
He reviled her in many ways. He mocked her. I mean, all she's ever known is power. Her father never loved her.
No,
not really.
Not really.
Like the only person that's really, really loved her is Jaime. I mean, look at her kid.
Oh yeah, and speaking of her father, with that Tywin scene with Tyrion was also great about having him stay behind, because Tywin does acknowledge that Tyrion has a great mind, and so he kind of wants to talk to him and see how he thinks about the whole, Red Wedding situation, how he coordinated it, and what Tywin has a little different perspective. He has a perspective. We do this unbelievably heinous crime or this heinous thing, and people will be afraid of us. And Tyrion's perspective is, no, you do that heinous thing, people are going to remember, and they're going to come get you.
Yeah, and I think there were so many beautiful lines tonight. How long does this last? To Cersei, until we're dealt with all our enemies. Yeah, but every time we deal with one, we make two more. Well, I guess it's going to last a long time then, And it's Tyrion, I mean, Dany's perspective is although, I mean, listen, again, nobody's all good. Dany's out like raising cities, and she's people are being killed in her name, setting things on fire, setting people on fire with her dragons. But her perspective is obviously closer in line with Tyrion's in the sense of like, you're better off winning their love and their loyalty than having them fear you. In the end, you'll be better off that way. Now, how that's all going to play out, I don't know, in different ways over the seasons. But, it's just interesting because Tywin is so totally convinced otherwise.
Yeah, and then he also revealed that he wanted initially to put him, when Tyrion was born, put him into the ocean, just kill him, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it never stops being painful. The thing is, you've heard Tywin say these awful things to Tyrion over and over again.
It gets worse and worse.
And it just keeps getting worse, and it just keeps getting more painful, and you think, the fact that he turned out to be the human being that he is like a miracle. Yeah. That he has the integrity that he is, and he has the honor that he does is kind of a miracle, considering what he has grown up in. One thing that I kind of wanted to check in with you about is that now that we're at the end of the season, and certainly the fantasy element has elevated more and more and more since the beginning, but certainly in this season, there's a high level of magic going on, and that even came up with Stannis and Melisandre. Well, do you think her blood spell was responsible for Rob's death?
I don't think so. I don't know. I just like what Davos said. It's like, this is, all these kings are fighting each other to kill each other. Something like that's bound to happen.
What is causal and what is not? What is the magic created and what is it not? I mean, the magic's clearly present, right? But like, what's cool is like, you don't know what to believe half the time.
I believe in the dragons. The dragons, that's what I believe in.
I mean, that's real, right?
Yeah. Well, we see them. I mean, they fly around and blow fire and kill people,
Yeah.
So, and I think part of that whole Dany thing, to bring it back to the beginning of the belief in this religious type figure, is they see the dragons. So the dragons are something that people haven't seen in hundreds of years, and so they're kind of a myth, and now they finally see some live, and they see who's controlling it.
Well, I think that for me, the cool and interesting thing about the show is that oftentimes when something like magic is introduced, it's easy. It just means, boom, magic, I can do that. Now suddenly things are really easy. What's cool about Game of Thrones is that it does not mean that, you know? And it does not mean you automatically win. And it doesn't mean you automatically have all the power. In fact, sometimes magic makes things harder, right? Because Bran has these incredible abilities, right? That are mystical and I guess in some ways magical, so that's intertwined. But look at what he had to suffer to get it.
Yeah.
And look at what he's having to do because of it, going right into the heart of the beast, going right into danger.
Yeah, there's always a price to pay for
There's
command.
always a price.
Like, you either got to kill someone that you shouldn't be killing, or sacrifice something, part of you, yourself, or something, your honor, anything like that, and in order to get some of that magic, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's what I like about it, because even though it's magical, it's still complex.
yeah.
Anyway, looking forward to next season?
Yes, I am. I'm so sad that we have to wait 10 months. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I probably one of these months I'm just going to marathon season 1, 2, and 3. But I'm so looking forward to season 4.
I am really, really looking forward to season 4. Man, there's so much good stuff in store. I'm excited to see what they keep, what they change, and how they do it, because that's one of the interesting things for me about watching the show.
So if you guys want to see our season 4 reviews next year when the season starts, make sure you subscribe to our new Think Hero channel. That's Think Hero Pro. This is going to be the last review on this Think Hero TV channel. So, and you can always check out Roth on IGN.
You can find my work on IGN.com every single day. You can follow me on Twitter at my name, @RothCornett.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter as well. That's @ThinkHero, and you can find our Facebook page. That's Think Hero Fans.